Yo, what's good? It's your boy Low, man, and I'm super excited that you chose to tune into the podcast today, The World According to Low. Shout out to the Patreon Nation that make this thing happen. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it, man. Today's episode of The World According to Low. Of the World According to Low podcast, and I'm super excited today because I have a good friend of mine, a classmate from film school. I'm gonna let him introduce himself to you guys. Go ahead, Jordan. Tell the world.
What's up, everybody?
You are, man.
Jordan Pulmano. I'm from Central California, filmmaker, photographer, editor, all of the creative things down over here on the west side.
Now, Jordan, we go back to film school, man, back to when we were cutting teeth, man, on this thing called the film industry. And man, I saw it early on when we were in film school. I think you can agree that we kind of could feel who was going to be working in the industry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I do like about your work is that it's always been super clean. I think you and I used to have a lot of conversations about assignments in film school, and man, I was just always impressed with the work you were putting out. So tell people how did you get into? I know how I ended up, and a lot of my audience knows how I ended up in film. Tell them how you kind of got into the area of visuals that you are in today.
Yeah, I started, it kind of stems back to like when I was in 5th and 6th grade. My family got like an old little mini DV camera just to take on like family vacations and stuff. Yeah. And my cousin and I started, we were homeschooled. Like I was homeschooled basically my whole life. So we had to fill up time somehow. So we picked up that camera and started filming like these Ace Ventura spin-off movies.
Yeah.
Like completely awful, but we just started making these movies and, did that for like 2 or 3 years, and then nothing really came of it. I didn't really like think anything about video until high school, when I was like heavily into music. I was playing music in like local bands, and started watching a lot of music videos. And from there, I was like, man, how do they make these music videos? Like these look like movies. And that, back it was like 2008, 2009. They definitely didn't look like movies, but
yeah,
at the time, to me, they did. So I was very interested in how they made these. So I picked up the camera again and started kind of like figuring out how to shoot music videos, and got super into that. And then as the time went on, I was in my senior year trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I had been shooting videos for a couple of years at that point, and just kind of made the decision of like, I want to do this. I don't know what's going to come of it. It's either music or shooting videos, and shooting videos is just a lot more appealing to me right now. So that's when I found out about Full Sail University and kind of the whole film school thing, and enrolled in that and started doing that. So that's kind of like the short form of how it started.
Well, man, it's amazing how a lot of us have similarities with music, backgrounds, and just, I think it's, because some people say, creativity is something I believe that some people just really are blessed with. Like a lot of times, and you can answer this in your own way, it's hard for me to explain how I naturally see projects when I walk into it. When I start to hear about the idea of what's being involved, my mind immediately starts to create something visually about what I want to see. Even when I'm shooting, I'm editing in my mind these things that I'm processing and I'm taking in.
Right.
And a lot of times people say, well, man, I have to literally storyboard everything or it doesn't work. Now,
Right.
Is that a process that you also find naturally for yourself when you're going into different things?
Yeah, I think for me, like, and everybody's creative process is always different, but for me, I've always been visual. As far as like, you're thinking about it in your mind, you're thinking of what ideas you have. And it goes all the way back to like when I was playing music. I was never really like a classically trained musician where I would read it from the book. It was always what sounded good. And that's kind of how it translated into visuals for me. It's just, I don't know, maybe the the proper way or like the technical way of how you're supposed to do it, but I know this looks good for me. So I'm just going to roll with it. And that's always been my process, is just kind of like, how does it look for me? And I've never really been a big writer. So like writing things out on paper is, probably a more efficient way to do things, but it's just never really worked out for me. I've always just kind of brainstormed it and like, let's just do this. So definitely all in the mind is what it comes down to.
Yeah, man. Now, you have also moved into not just doing visuals, but being on tour with artists. I've been in that vein. I've done a lot of stuff with, especially musically based clients, as well as documenting people in their private space. Tell me, how do you normally approach that? Because a lot of people lose work in that vein of documenting because they don't know where the lines are of what should I shoot, what should I not shoot, when do I recognize this is a special moment, and how to be seen without being seen, and how to capture those things. Like, how do you normally go into your approach with that?
What I've learned from working in the music industry is, like, one, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So it's documentary shooting. So you have to just film everything, get every moment, because you don't know, it doesn't matter if you're going to use it or not. I really just try to capture as much as I can, and try to capture as much off stage as I can, because that's really what people want to see. You can see all these shows, big festivals and stuff, but at the end of the day, you want to see that off stage personality from the artist. So I've kind of learned to just start filming as much as I can, just try to get as much as I can. And if it's something that, maybe you can't show on camera, then you don't use it. And if people ask about it, you explain to them, I'm just going to film. And, if we don't use it, we don't use it. It goes through so many layers of management. So that was a struggle for me at first, trying to figure out, should I film this? Should I not? Am I going to get in trouble for filming this? And then it kind of just, you get a little more comfortable with it. And then you realize, like, I need to get the content. I would rather have that footage and management or the client ask me for it than they ask me for a certain shot and I say, oh, I wasn't filming it. Right. So I think that's what it kind of comes down to with that.
And, I'm glad you said that, because there is another aspect that I realized early in being able to, work with high-end clients, is that there's an ethic that you have to keep also when you're documenting everything, because you are being allowed to invade their space, their privacy. And I remember, man, when my company had did some work with the Destiny's Child, they had the reunion in Vegas, and we were doing some documentary work. Number one, the contract in the NDA was this thick, like, no lie. And but there were things at that time, people were paying like six figures for shots of Blue, like their Beyonce's daughter at the time. And I had a ton of it. And I remember when, receiving a couple offers like, hey man, we knew you were shooting out there. We just want pictures or glimpses or whatever. And truthfully, to most people, it probably would be appealing. But for your reputation, if you even give a glimpse of you can't be trusted, that's going to ripple throughout the rest of your career. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's it's a very special situation that they bring you into, and you really have to show the human side of it. So, like, I always tell people, if you want to have a long career in the music industry, you have to be good at what you do, obviously, but you also have to be a good person. You have to be enjoyable to be around, especially when you're touring with these artists. You're with them for, 15 to 40 days at a time, and you got to be easy to get along with, and you have to be trustworthy, because you do see that side. And I mean, a lot of artists, as they are public figures, they're also very private, and you have to respect their privacy, and you just have to make sure that you're giving off the you have to make sure that they trust you, I guess, is
integrity.
Yeah, they have to feel like they can trust you filming, and that footage is only going to go where they want it to go.
Yeah. Even with sharing to social media, because social media has changed the game so much. Like,
Hmm.
you have to learn, like, what can I post? Yes, I'm working, but I can't be getting you in a conversation that's private, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of people, and even in our classmates, like some of our classmates from school, they hit me up and you probably get the same emails. Man, how are you working? How are you doing
Hmm.
this? How are you doing that? And like I said early on, even in film school, you could tell like Gomez was one, that Javier, he was good, and like you could tell the people who put the extra details into what they were doing.
Hmm.
But like I know you kind of like the same vein, and we kept in touch since then a lot. But the work to me became easy to find because people were telling other people about what I was doing for them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people really don't understand that if you show up, you kick butt, you take no breaks, no shortcuts, and you give people quality work, they will
Hmm.
tell other people about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's, I think that's one of the most important things is you can get that dream job and you can, get that one big break. But if you screw it up by, you do the best work you can, they love your work, but if they don't like working with you, then it's going to be short term. You're going to have that one gig and you're going to be a one hit wonder in the industry. And you don't want that. You want to keep putting out hits. And so you just have to be a good person and, that trustworthy hard worker, because people see that and it shines through the other people who maybe are just opportunists who take that shot and kind of abuse the power of what it is. But yeah, that's how you get more work is you go from one job and then the people you worked on that job with, they're going to recommend you. And if you're not getting recommended, then you
yeah,
got to take a step back and realize, okay, what am I doing here?
where's the
What's not
breakdown?
working? Yeah.
Now, what are you doing to feed yourself to keep your creativity juices flowing? What's some of the things that you do?
So and this was recent, just in the past about year and a half, I had like a huge kind of creative breakdown where I was just so, uh, burnt out creatively, which is like kind of a woe is me thing because it was at the time when I was touring like more than half the year. I was gone all the time for shooting videos, but at the same time, I wasn't taking any time for myself and creating for myself. So I just reached a point of just total breakdown and burnout. So the beginning of last year, 2019, kind of stepped back and was like, I'm going to create for myself again. I'm going to try and rekindle that spark that I had when I first picked up a camera, which is hard to find after it turns into a career and you're doing it for years. So I just started shooting stuff for myself and posting it either on YouTube or on my Instagram and just doing what I enjoyed doing, the type of shots that I like doing, and not doing any client work for just like 2 or 3 months. I just took that time, like I'm gonna take this loss right here financially so that I can kind of rekindle that spark. So I just started shooting for myself, and now it's turned into taking like these minimal office type setup photos and like something that's totally different from what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just stuff that's fun and it kind of challenges me to think outside of the box. And also with YouTube videos, I started pushing YouTube a little harder and making these YouTube videos that are just ideas that I like. And maybe people don't like it. Maybe it's kind of a stupid idea, but I'm going to have fun making it and I'm going to put it out there because it's kind of that extra challenge of like, you need to start it, finish it, and just put it out there. So that's kind of been what I've been doing to keep it flowing and kind of keeping my mind as like worked out as possible.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute because I clearly just related so much to everything you just said. And for a while, success is our focus. We're working on doing all these things that make us, more available to people, more, client. But then you get the same notion of where you find that, man, I have very little to give to myself or to the
Mm-hmm.
process of what is in front of me. Because, like, at one point, I was doing things that, like you just said, I was vlogging, which to me was me just doing whatever I felt was great. You know, I was shooting sunsets. I was in those moments. I was going out doing whatever projects I wanted about, you know, local eateries or whatever the case. And then I got really busy. And the more I
Mm-hmm.
got busy, the less I had to replenish myself. And then it got to the point where something I loved stopped feeling like something I loved. And
Yeah.
it started to feel like, oh my gosh, like, and my assistant, my office manager will say, "Hey, so and so, they're calling. They got a big project that they want you to be in and on." And then I would just start to like get anxiety because I just felt like here's somebody else wanting something from me, and
Yeah.
I felt like I had nothing to give. And I think a lot of times we have to balance, like you said, you got to feed yourself. You got to, like, it's a resource. And in today's time, it's a resource that a lot of people don't have access to. So when they find a good creative, man, they digging for as much oil as
Yeah.
possible. And, we had, people we know in the industry that are technically sound, but they're not creatively sound.
Yeah.
So, to me, there's a difference. Like, I know people who can set up a camera, they'll meter the light, they can do all of that stuff. But then if you say, hey, shoot a video, they're like, well,
About what? Yeah.
right. you know, like I've shot commercials for local restaurants here with nothing but, my iPhone, man.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody would know because it's like, man, it was a very creative video. And
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, because we got to talk about tools. Everybody wants to know, well, what are you shooting on? And oh my gosh, I got to get a red. That was a big
Yeah.
thing when we were in film school. I got to get a
Yeah.
red. I got to get this. I got to get that. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this. You said something one day, I think it was in our, one of our cinematography classes. And you were like, man, learn the tools you have, like inside and out, and then you don't have to worry about like all the details of what the extra stuff that comes along with it. And at the time, I really needed to hear that because I was trying to buy all this crap on eBay, man. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I would ask you, I'm like, how did you get that shot? And you were like, oh man, like this is what I did. I use the same. And I'm like, you shooting this with the same thing camera I'm using? And you were like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, I read. And then that really made me go do my homework on the camera I had.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to understand the camera, I started to see my work improve. And I know you've worked with all manner of cameras. Like, for the people who are just bent on, oh my God, what are you using, Jordan? Your work is great. What do you say about the tools you choose to work with?
So for me, like, it's maybe it comes with age or something, or just working longer. The longer I work, but it's come down to I want to work with something that's convenient. And for the same amount of years, I was like, oh, I got to shoot on Red. I want to shoot on Ari. And yeah, those cameras are amazing. They're great to shoot with. They're um, not convenient to shoot with in most cases. And so for me, a lot of my work right now is shot on the Canon EOS R, which I got last year, and it's turned into probably one of my favorite cameras. And I shoot on that, the Sony A7S II, which still after so many years is still on
Amazing.
top. It's such an amazing camera. And then I just recently picked up the Blackmagic 4K, and that was mainly just to kind of beef up the quality of the video as far as like what I have to play with colors.
Yeah.
So shooting raw, so getting that like 12-bit, it was kind of mainly for that reason. But yeah, the tools, I mean, if you can master that camera, say you master the A7S II and you get the most out of it, you drain that sucker. When you do step up and you shoot on a red, it's going to be a lot more beneficial than if, you know, you just go out and finance a red. And I did that when I was younger. You know, I owned a red for a number of years when I probably technically wasn't ready for it and didn't know the camera inside and out like I should have. And now that I don't have it anymore, because I sold it because I was like, you know, I don't really need this. I know that camera inside and out because I had more time to study with it. And going back, I would probably buy it now, but I didn't need it then. And still to this day, like, all the cameras that I have are perfect for what I need. You know, they get the job done. It's all about what can I do with this camera? How can I make it look like that red as closely as possible? So
now, let me ask you real quick, because you shoot a lot of on the go projects. So you're moving, which is, I want people to understand the context of what you're mainly saying when you're talking about a tool that fits your work structure. Now, if you're probably in a studio every day and you were shooting these, you know, constant commercials and things, then those cameras are more of a better fit for those standalone sets, right?
Yep.
But for someone interested in being a touring, you know, documentary person, or if you want somebody that's working on the go, in and out of airports, you know, even securing your camera while living abroad, what are some of your advice or tips for that?
Yeah, I think if you're going to be traveling or doing any sort of documentary run and gun style work, you have to have a camera that's going to fit the logistics of it. Because, you know, you see these travel vlogs, you see these tour videos, you got to think about everything that's outside of what you're seeing on video. That's the travel, going through customs, going through security, day in, day out. You need a camera that you can just open up your bag. They see it. They're not going to think twice about. If you need to pull it out, it's easy. It's all pieced together. And I just talked about this in my last video because, you know, you can't, I've toured with a red before, and even being on a bus tour, we're not going through security every day. It's a pain in the ass to have to carry it around because it's modular, you know, it's a bunch of different pieces that you're taking apart, and you need something that you can just grab and go, be ready to shoot with. So I highly recommend, you know, any SLR or mirrorless camera, because now those cameras are just, there's so much power in them. It's ridiculous. So you're getting cinema quality in this tiny body that takes a little battery. So definitely something that works.
So what is your battery? Because everybody focuses on the camera. I'm sure you probably are using, I know in the past that Canon zoom lens was one of your favorites to get that range. But a lot of people don't think to battery life and how that, you know, calculates on the road. You just can't, sometimes you just can't sit at a plug. So how do you even navigate like battery life? What has been successful for you in making sure you're juiced up, you have backups, and, you know, you're always ready to shoot?
Yeah. Well, right now, not currently, but I've been touring with the Canon EOS R or like any Canon cameras, and their battery life is great. So I can pretty much get a full day of shooting. And by full day, when you're on the road, you're basically shooting, you know, 1 to 2 hours in the afternoon outside of the show, and then you're shooting for about 1 to 2 hours on the show. So that's all day battery right there. I only need one battery a day. So I just carry a couple. I usually bring on the road with me, say I'm shooting on a Canon, I'll bring like 4 batteries. So I've got 2 with me, 2 at the hotel charging. So when I get back, you know, I'm good to go. I've got these 2 batteries ready to go. And you just got to shoot with the camera that is going to last you. You know, I've had trouble with Sony cameras, at least the Sony A7S II, with those batteries being pretty bad. And so you're going through them a lot faster. That becomes a problem because you don't want to carry around a bunch of chargers with you. So that's been a bit of an issue. But if you have a camera that has all day battery life, pretty much, you can get away with just traveling with one charger. Charge one battery while you're out with the other battery, and you're good to go.
You heard it from the man himself. Hey, I'm telling y'all, because a lot of people, man, I shoot a lot of run and gun, and that is the biggest hurdle most people don't ever think about is if you, especially like with me, we would document, like, man, we would work 10-hour days, so they would want all the footprint captured. Like, you don't know who's gonna show up to the venue. The label wants what they want, the artist wants what they want, and then you have, the managers and people who are trying to curate new ideas from things that could be going on, and shooting all this stuff nonstop, having proper SD cards, not those cheap ones that you find on sale.
Yeah.
Man, when I tell you, learning that lesson of a corrupt SD card.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the stuff they don't teach in film school. It's like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
by
the
the
real life
way,
stuff.
make sure you don't skinny out on the SD card. Like,
Yeah.
speed matters, size matters, and
Yeah.
oh man, like those things, man. Just, I know we could sit here all day, man, and tell stories about that. But I kind of wanted to talk to you today because I wanted people to be kind of get a glimpse into how to, I guess you would say, navigate to the place that you are, and how you have, because a lot of people say you don't need film school. Some people say you do. Some people say it's a balance of both. I think I learned a lot of sound foundation in film school that I would not have gotten on my own. I know a lot of people say you can just watch it on YouTube. No, the calculations, understanding, really how light works, and having someone walk you through those things, even in cinematography, and how things are broken down to make the movies we love. I wouldn't trade going to film school for anything. I think it had a proper place in my career. I don't know how you feel after it. It still was one of the most expensive piece of paper that I ever purchased.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to live my dream based off of it. And I kind of, would like to get you to, before we close out, just to, what advice would you give someone watching this who wants to be in the places that we are? What would you say to them?
I think what I tell people a lot, because I get that question all the time, should I go to film school? What was Full Sail like? I tell them, you need to look back and what do you want to do for the next, say, 10, 15 years even? What part of the film industry do you want to be in? Do you want to be in television? Do you want to get into movies? Do you want to be on set productions? Or do you want to be more on like the newer content side of like YouTube and short form content, stuff like that? And nowadays, just in recent years, like since we've graduated, everything's changed with what film school is, and there's so many more resources out there. And I think people, depending on what they want to do, can learn everything from a $500 or $600 course versus film school tuition.
Yeah.
If that is, if they want to just get right into it and they want to learn. I think that I didn't go to film school to learn how to shoot video. I went to film school to learn the fundamentals of cinematography and lighting. And that's what you get being taught by a professor who, that's their job to teach you that.
Yeah.
So that's why I went. So I always tell people, are you learning to shoot video right now? Because if you're just getting into it, don't go to film school right now. Right. You need to learn how to shoot video. You can learn that on YouTube. You can pay for a master class or a Skillshare, whatever it is. And once you have been shooting videos for a while, think about where you want to go. Do you want to get into cinematography? Do you want to try and work up the ranks in camera department? And do you want to learn more of those fundamentals? Then maybe start considering film school if you want to learn more of the, I guess, the classic technical side of things. But I've always told people, I've never like told them not to go to film school, but I tell them to weigh their options first.
Yeah.
Let film school be like plan C before it's plan A, because it is very expensive and it is a big commitment that you're taking on. So don't let it be plan A, and don't let like, I'm going to get a free camera, free MacBook Pro. Don't let that be the selling point.
Yeah.
You have to look at it from what you're going to learn from it. Is it going to be worth it to you? If that makes any sense. I may have just ran in circles with it, but
I think that was a great way to, give some advice towards that, because, some people don't need it. If you're shooting music videos, or if you're doing things where clients are more particular on just the outcome of a project and not you really understanding how everything works. But it's different when you go to a commercial house, or you're going to other professionals who want to know what camera gives different looks, or more specifics of things. What lens range do we have? When you have to start renting things, and you got to have those shots to know what a 50 millimeter will get you, and know the cinematography, the art of what we do. I say, hey, then you got to dig a little deeper. Like, and in short, it's like going to a doctor. Can you go to an urgent care? Yes, you can. But if you really got something going on, you don't want somebody to just say, hey, take 2 aspirin and go lay down. You want somebody that knows, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like in any industry, there are people who are surface, who can treat the basic stuff. You just need something documented. Cool. Yeah, you could pay this guy $50 and be good. But if you need specifics, if you need expertise, if you need somebody that can dial it in and not question if it's going to happen the right way, that's where that education comes into play. Now, tell us a little bit, because I know you're making your own presets and things now. Tell the people a little bit about what else you got going on, man.
Yeah. So right now, all of my work as far as the artist and touring side's kind of come to a halt, probably for the next year to year and a half. So I, before that, was getting into the YouTube space. It's something that I had wanted to get into for a long time, just to kind of exercise my creative juices and kind of keep everything flowing. Just kind of a challenge to myself. So I got into that. And then I started getting really into it, and like, man, I want to try and turn this into something if possible. So that's what I'm working on a lot right now. Now that I have a lot of free time to do it, is just shooting YouTube videos, whether they're good or not, just for myself, and doing that. And then kind of just posting on Instagram a lot of these like minimal desk setup shots, which have kind of turned into more than I expected it to. So I've been tinkering with that a little bit, just kind of building that up into whatever it turns into. But that's really what I'm focusing on right now. And then once things open up a little bit to where I can get back into productions, then I'll head back down to LA and start doing more of that commercial work again. But as of now, just kind of shooting YouTube content and Instagram stuff for a personal portfolio, I guess. And
now, are you available? Let's say
it.
Someone is in need of product shots, because online sales are at an all-time high. Everybody's having to order online. Let's say a brand or a company has a product that they may need shots of. You are available still to work if they ship you those products from where
Absolutely.
you are now. Okay.
Yeah, and I do a lot of that kind of behind the scenes. I don't really show too much, but I do have brands that hit me up. They'll send me products. I'll set it up in my office or whatever setting they need, and do those.
Okay, cool. Well, tell them how they can find you and where you are online, man.
Yeah, my website, Jordan Pulmano. Last name's Pulmano. That's jordanpulmano.com. Also Instagram. All of my handles are the same, just Jordan Pulmano. find me everywhere. Say what's up.
Man, make sure y'all check my boy out. Amazing creative. I'm so blessed
Thank you,
and
bro.
happy that we were able to sit down and do this, man. It's a long time
Yes.
coming. And you already know I'm a big fan of your work. And I want you guys to check him out, man, and you won't be disappointed. Clearly one of my favorite creators on the internet today, my boy Jordan.
Appreciate it, bro.
Appreciate you for joining the podcast and giving me a little bit of your time, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on. That was awesome.
Oh, man, appreciate you. All right, y'all, until next time, it's your boy Low, man. I'll see you.
Later.